Welcome back, everybody, and in this episode we're going to introduce everyone to some tortoises, not turtles, tortoises.
Tortoises. We'll be right back. Hello, welcome back to Southern Oregon Safari.
And we're the buffalo roam.
He's Hayden.
He's Jerry.
That's right, and we're down here looking at tortoises. Hayden is gonna introduce us to a herd of tortoises.
Or a horde.
A herd of turtles, but they're called a horde?
No.
A group?
But we'll call them that right now.
Okay, that sounds fun. What do you got? I noticed there's two types here, and you've got how many?
Yes, there's 8 total tortoises here. We're at the Tortoise Tavern.
Okay.
You like the play on words?
Oh, I love it. Like
The
my
Tortoise
bunny bungalow.
Exactly, the bunny bungalow. Anyway, we have 8 tortoises here. We have some females and males, but these are 2 different species. One is an African sulcata or spur-thigh tortoise, which are the smaller ones, and they're more of a kind of African desert tortoise. And they can get pretty large. They can get up to 70, 80 pounds. I believe I've seen one, I think they get up to 100, but that's rare.
Okay.
Then the other amazing tortoise in this group are the larger ones, and they are called Aldabra tortoises. And Aldabra tortoises are the second largest species in the world, the first being the Galapagos, which is the world famous Galapagos tortoise. These are the Aldabra tortoises from the Aldabra Islands, and they come from a chain of islands called the Seychelles.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's pretty famous.
Wow.
Yes.
Big turtles on Seychelles. I never even thought about.
Just a couple of the islands, not all of them, but these are a tropical tortoise, and so they obviously require humidity. Where the desert tortoise likes it dry, these guys like humidity. Now we're in Oregon, so it's not exactly tropical here, folks. So we have to have a specialized facility to keep them happy and healthy. And one of the things is this nice shade gazebo, or shall I say patio, the tortoise patio. And then the inside we have a heated building, even equipped with grow lights like you'd find in, say, like a greenhouse for plants. So we do get some cloudy days that can last an extended period. And these guys need lots of vitamin D, need that solar heat. They don't have a way to regulate their body temperature because they're a reptile. So they regulate through the thermal regulation through the sun, and they store that energy. But if you go days without heat source, such as the sun with the solar radiation, we have to give them artificial. So there are some grow lights in there.
Well, that's
and then there's
clever.
also some infrared heat to really absorb, because what's really cool about these guys is that for those who have not been around a tortoise, is their shell being the color it is and the way it's designed. If they sit out in the sunlight for an hour and then they go inside where it's cool, you can walk up 8 hours later and touch their shell. It's almost like an ice chest that stays cold. Their body stays hot for an extended amount of time, so it's almost like a hot rock. So what's really cool, even on really cold days, they'll get out and get a little bit of sun even on a cold day, even if it's like 25, 30 degrees out here. If the sun's out and touching their shell, they're storing that solar radiation, and they're really well insulated. So they'll go in that night and you'll feel the heat coming off those 8 tortoises when that barn's closed, that garage, that little building's closed. You can walk in there and feel the heat coming off them. It's like walking to a spa with hot rocks or heat stones. And you put your hand on them and they'll stay super warm on the inside. Now, they can do that for quite a few hours, but they have to have that light, that solar radiation to do that.
I noticed a special feature behind the structure. You have a pool back there.
Yeah, the tortoise spa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, what specifically is that used for?
Well, again, so we talked about tortoises and turtles. These are tortoises, folks, so they're a land animal, land-based animal, not a aquatic species. Turtles are aquatic, and they have a webbed foot, and they swim, and they can go and submerge themselves for long periods of time, and they are aquatic. These guys are land-based, so what happens, they're not really swimmers. And the big mistake that a lot of people make is they find a tortoise somewhere, and they go, oh, he's so far away from the water, I gotta save this little guy. And they pick him up and they drive over to a body of water and drop him in there thinking they're saving the tortoise, and they just drown the tortoise, unfortunately. So don't make that mistake, folks. You gotta make sure it's a turtle if you're gonna put it in the water. You put a tortoise in the water, most of the time they'll drown. So we don't wanna make that mistake. But that feature back there, because they're tropical and come from a very hot climate, and even the desert tortoise comes from a hot climate, they sometimes like to soak and cool their body down. So if it gets too hot out, they don't have the ability to regulate like you and I. They don't sweat, so they're not going to cool their bodies down. So they need the source, either shade, which is very helpful, and then the water source. It's not very deep. That pool back there is only about 1.5 feet deep.
So it's
they can,
like a frog pond.
They can't drown in there. Exactly.
Knee-deep.
It's just shallow.
Knee-deep.
They can still, knee deep. Exactly. I like that one. Another play on words. But they can stand up and touch the bottom, so they won't drown in there. But it gives them opportunity to cool their body down. Plus, being a reptile, their skin is very thick and heavy, and so we want to exfoliate. And to exfoliate, you want to soften the skin a little bit.
Okay.
So this is just, it's got multiple purposes, but it's like you and I would sometimes you just want to sit in a hot tub for a little bit and cool yourself off or heat yourself up.
Yeah, you got a nice little corral outside for them to just roam and forage or whatever grows out here, and in your structure for fencing to contain.
Exactly. And so the sulcatas are diggers. They will burrow, and they're very destructive. A lot of people get these things as pets and think they're the coolest thing ever, and they are cool, but they'll put them in their backyard and not realize they'll dig right underneath your house and your foundation to destroy a foundation. I mean, they'll literally burrow right under the concrete foundation because it's cool down there. And they'll dig in, really deep under the building, or they dig under fences and get out. So you got to be careful. They're big diggers. They're really hard to contain. This setup here is really good for them. It's really well built. I've never had a tortoise escape from here or dig out. And because they have enough space, they dig less. If they don't have enough room, they start digging more. And because they have what they need, they have the cooling pool and they have shade, they don't feel the need to dig underneath the buildings over here. But that's the big mistake people make, is the tortoises sit in the yard, get hot, they start seeking some cool temperatures, dig underneath the house, and then now you got a big problem on your hands. A very expensive problem.
Yeah, I had a tortoise crawling around my legs.
He went right around you. The ankle biter. Good thing he's not an ankle biter, I guess.
Yeah.
So they are big diggers. The sulcatas, the aldabras don't dig. They don't burrow. They don't hibernate. Some tortoises hibernate in the wintertime. They'll burrow underground and stay there for the winter. These guys don't, especially the aldabras don't. So that's that.
And their diet. What do you
Good question.
feed them?
Great question. So obviously they're omnivorous. People think they're just herbivores, and they're not. They'll eat dead animals. They'll eat lizards. They'll eat frogs. They'll eat carrion. They don't tend to do that all the time, but when they need it, if they need some extra calcium or some extra protein, they will eat it.
So they're opportunistic.
They're opportunistic,
yes.
Exactly. But in this case, we keep them pretty much herbivores. I'm sure they get insects that they eat in their food. They might every once in a while get a mouse that gets stuck in the food, especially if it's dead. They would just eat it. They'll eat whatever. But we're on an herbivore diet for these guys, mostly hay. They get a mixture of alfalfa and grass. You got to be careful because too much alfalfa can be harmful for them. So we have to balance that diet out. And then lots of fruits and vegetables. Right now they're munching on fresh carrots that we grew here on the ranch. So we just pulled a whole bunch of carrots and just fed them a bunch, and they really like that root. Root vegetables are obviously really good. Lots of vitamins, lots of nutrients in the root vegetables. But you have to balance it out. They can eat some fruit, but you don't want to give too much fruit. You can cause all kinds of problems giving too much fruit.
Same way with me. I eat too much fruit and Yep.
I hear what happened. I hear you. You think it's fruit, it's supposed to be good for you, but not always.
Well, too much of anything is not good.
Anything is not good.
Yeah, you're going to be sitting on the toilet for a while like they would cause these guys. Anyway, what is the lifespan of each species you have here?
Well, that's a question I probably don't have the answer completely to, but tortoises live a long time. They're slow moving, their heartbeat's just barely going, they're reptiles, so they don't have any stress in their life. They live a long time. We should take it from them. We'd probably live a lot longer if we just moved slowly and didn't eat all the stress we eat. But the Aldabra tortoise, I can tell you, can live upwards of 150 to even, there's records of 185, even 200 I've heard years.
Okay.
And I've even heard of a 200 plus tortoise. I haven't seen that in a while, but I do remember at one point doing some reading and found some tortoise was documented at like over 200 years old,
Wow.
which is pretty cool. And I believe that was a Galapagos. But Aldabras are very similar, and they can go almost as long as a Galapagos. In fact, really, if you put a Galapagos next to an Aldabra, most people would not be able to tell the difference. Basically, professionals only really would be able to figure that out. The Aldabra is slightly smaller by about 5 to 10%, but they look almost identical.
Okay.
very few differences between the two tortoises.
Massive. Now you have a name for the giant
Yeah,
one
so
back there.
not everybody, well, they may have names. I don't have all everybody's names, but the biggest one back there is Big George, because he's big, and his girlfriend is Georgette.
George and Georgette.
Yes. I didn't name them that. So this collection here actually was not my collection. They're very valuable, especially the Aldabras are very valuable because they're really hard to raise. It takes a long time for them to get to breeding age. It's really hard to get them to reproduce.
Are they monogamous in their breeding?
I do not believe that's the case, no. Okay. I could be wrong on that. Don't fact check me on it. I don't really believe they are. No, they're really not, because the males will go out there like horn dogs. They go after everything.
I've seen on YouTube where one little tortoise is even going after a croc, a little shoe.
Oh, wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, when they especially during breeding season,
they're going after.
They're like rabbits. There's a lot more noises outside of my house than there are on the inside of my house. My wife will shoot me for that joke. But there's a lot of grunting going on, a lot of stuff going on out here. It's a very busy area in the tortoise enclosure during the spring and summer months.
Oh boy.
But anyway, so that's Big George, and these guys, like I said, the smaller ones were all sulcatas. Now there was a couple we might have seen that look a little different than Big George. They got a higher, rounder shell. They're still Aldabras, but what's going on with them is that's called pyramiding.
Pyramiding on the little
And pyramiding
armor
can be really bad for them. A lot of time it leads to a kind of a mutated shell that actually becomes deformed, and then they get health issues from it. These guys are slightly pyramided, but it's not going to cause them any health issues. And a lot of people have different theories of what causes that. Some people say it's nutrition. Those tortoises are fed really well, but they were not raised by me. And when they come out of the egg, if they don't have the right balance of calcium and all that, and especially humidity. For the Aldabras, they need more humidity, and their shell will actually get too hard, and the plates don't move as easily, and that'll cause some pyramiding. Some people say that's not true, but I've seen this over and over again with especially tortoises, especially tropical tortoises that were raised on the West Coast rather than on the East Coast where it's very humid.
Right, yeah.
It can still happen over there, but I believe there's multiple types of pyramiding. Some of it is just nutritional, some of it is based on humidity.
Okay.
So we'll see some of these guys in here. They have a taller dome. They're not as flat as they're supposed to be, and they've got these pyramid diamonds on their back, and that is pyramiding. It doesn't go away, it's permanent. But in this case, they're perfectly symmetrical, so there's not a deformity going on. But they can get very deformed, especially from the nutritional end of pyramiding.
It's good information to have, good information to know.
Well, a lot of people keep tortoises. They're great pets, they're wonderful pets, but if you don't keep them right, you can really make their lives miserable.
I have a friend who she has two Russians, and I forgot what the other one is, but his name is Hanky.
Hanky?
Big tortoise. I remember when she got him, and she relocated from here, Oregon, back to Oklahoma, and
well, shout out to her in Oklahoma. What's
her name's Stephanie.
Stephanie, shout out to you in Oklahoma.
Anyway, she's got a circle of friends that are tortoise people too, and I'm always seeing and learning from them on their tortoise collection.
And that's another thing, is that when it comes to tortoise health, Dr. Google is great, but there's so many people that everybody has, especially the real professional reptile keepers. They're pretty anal about how they care for their tortoises, but you'll see these arguments of which vegetables are the best and which fruits are the worst, and they'll sit there and argue amongst each other. I don't know if there's enough documentation, enough study to really know exactly. So everybody individually has their own idea of what a good diet is, what a bad diet, what a good temperature to keep them as. All the husbandry on tortoises, you get on Google search and start searching that stuff, and you can get 20 different answers for the same question.
Yeah, George is heading
back. He's heading back, and he's had enough because you guys are boring. But you can get so many different views of every point of view of how to care for a tortoise. So you've got to really do your research. It's really important, and don't believe everything you see, obviously, and read. Sometimes if you see more than a couple people saying the same thing, then maybe it has some truth to it. But there's so much misguidance on the internet about tortoises. Well, and I don't know everything at all.
Dr. Google.
I'm no professional on tortoises. Again, I was just saying before, this is somebody else's collection. It was kind of donated to me, and I've had them for a long time, for about 15 years. And I've been very successful with them. When I first got them, a lot of people said, oh, you want to keep them on flat ground. But when I got them, one of the female, she really couldn't walk very well because she'd eaten too much and was on flat ground her whole life. So she lost a lot of her muscle mass. So I put them on a hilly terrain, and everybody said that's a bad idea. But now they're stronger than oxes because they're carrying that big heavy body, the shell, up and down these hills. They're muscular now.
All right.
So it really is beneficial. The only thing you do really have to worry about is the tortoise rolling over and rolling down the hill. And I keep an eye on and make sure if anybody's flipped over, because that's the way to kill a tortoise. If they wind up upside down and stay there in the sun too long, that would kill a tortoise.
Yeah. And it's nice because they're within sight of your home, so
they're real close to the house.
Down on them
I'm checking on them. I'm down here every couple hours checking on everybody. And every once in a while, the biggest problem with the sulcatas is, especially the males, they fight a lot and they love to flip each other over. That's kind of like a submission in wrestling. They like to flip each other over because, like, I won, I beat you, you're upside down. Now what are you going to do? You know, and it cracks me up.
Hayden's going to come down and turn me back over, and then I'm going to get you.
Exactly, and then it cracks me up because some people say, "Oh, I saw a video of a tortoise saving another tortoise's life," and that's funny to me too because they'll flip each other over and kill each other faster than they'll help each other. But hey, that's just nature. Nature's not always pretty. So anyway,
lots of information, lots of input, lots of data.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yes, we got to visit the Tortoise Tavern and got to see all about tortoises and
hopefully we all learned something.
Species that he has in his collection. Thank you, Hayden, for bringing us along on this journey and giving us this information on them, and knowing, do not take a tortoise and just dump it in a pond.
Make sure it's a turtle if you're going to put it back in the water.
Yes. So. Learn your difference. If you do anything on Google, learn your difference between a tortoise and a turtle.
Two different beasts.
Yes. Well, anyway, thank you guys for coming. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen.
I'm Hayden.
This is Southern Oregon Safari.
And we're the buffalo roam.
We'll see you guys in our next episode. We're working on it next. Yep.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. Good.
We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.